Hey, what's up, you guys? This is Chivas Status. I'm here with a couple friends of mine. We got Danny here. Say hi, Danny.
What's up, everybody?
And we got Brian, first time on the channel. And we're here at Brian. What's up? Sorry,
How you
I
doing?
forgot
No,
to.
you're fine.
I almost
Happy to
forgot
be
to say.
here. I got a lot to talk about, so.
Awesome. Brian goes for America, and Danny, obviously, as you know, goes for Chivas, as do I. And here we have the call up for that Tata Martino did for the upcoming game against Costa Rica on the 30th of September. And I want to just start off the bat and ask Brian what he liked about this call up and what he disliked about it.
Yeah, so I mean, mostly what I like is of the obvious, which I said on Twitter, my philosophy. When you got like these exhibitions, you got 2 years of the World Cup. I want to see predominantly up and comers, and I know there's gonna be some veterans, but players like Santi, Macias, Beltran, which is I know you guys are big fans of, and I've been watching. Who's got a fabulous game, Piojo, Jorge, players like that. What I don't like is players that don't offer much down the road. And I don't know if I can get into a tangent here for like a minute.
Go ahead.
It's kind of what Mexico did in 2013 was a repetitive formation. Teams bunkered, found them out, and they also had players that couldn't accept that they were past it. Yeah. And that's kind of like I see people debating on Twitter, like, oh, this right back, no, this, and it's like, no, you should be playing U23s because in 2 years you give them those reps, and we can filter out with a bigger pool who can fit into that situation. You might have a big enough pool where you have to leave a few players out. Well, 31-year-old, 32-year-old players in League MX, we know our limitations. We love the league. We think it has quality, but there are limitations. And bringing a 33-year-old player to a World Cup who plays in League MX, that shouldn't be your priority. And I know this is just a friendly, so there's going to be things that are coming down the line after this game. But it's also kind of like the U.S. in 2017. They were relying on Howard, Bradley, Dempsey, Jermaine Jones, and it backfired. So that, like, I want to avoid that. I don't care if we lose 5-2. Start playing them now because the main games are coming in 2 years. So that's kind of what kind of frustrates me, seeing that there's a lot of talent that was left off.
Exactly, I completely agree. And namely, we're talking about like Chaka, Layun. I don't see what these players are going to offer.
I thought Talavera said he was done with the national team. I mean, I could have been wrong, but I could have sworn I saw.
He is of that age to be thinking about retiring. But in the goalkeeping situation, like if we want to focus, Danny, and I'll ask you, on the goalkeeping situation, I'm not too mad about what was chosen. I don't agree with Hugo Gonzalez, because I think Cota probably deserves a chance ahead of him. But ultimately, the goalkeeping situation, and I don't know what you think, I think there's not much to pick from. It's going to be Ochoa in the next World Cup. There's really nobody else to step up.
I mean, I think what Brian said was really like on the money. He was talking about getting guys in to really get them that experience, get them into the team, get them into the national team, see what they're made of. I think it's alarming to see that a lot of these guys are past their 30s. Like a lot of these guys shouldn't be getting called up because there should be a younger pool of players coming in. Predominantly, I think in the goalkeeping position, I think it's alarming that we don't even have one of these players be under 30. I think Gonzalez might just be hitting 30, but
he is 30. Yes.
Yeah, so I think it's a little scary to think that our goalkeeper's position is just all these guys that we've been seeing since 2010. I think a lot of these guys have been since 2010. The guys that keep getting called up. I don't know why guys like Malagon aren't getting minutes at Necaxa. Cota even. I mean, he's past 30, but I mean, Malagon and Jurado are the guys that I'm basically thinking of right now. I don't know why these guys aren't.
And Acevedo at Santos, he's 24. I mean, I don't. Yeah. If you lose this game, you're not going to remember it. It's just getting that experience right now.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of these guys really do need that, and I don't know why Layun, Orozco, even Talavera, why are they getting these call-ups when there's younger players out there that do deserve call-ups and want to get that experience to be able to make it to the next World Cup? A lot of these guys won't make it, and Ochoa making it to the next World Cup. How old is Ochoa going to be? After that, what are we going to have?
Exactly.
And that's why it feels like Tata is not really thinking long term. He's just thinking, just in the short term. But even 2 years from now, like Layun, is he really gonna make that World Cup squad? And if he does, I'll be baffled.
I hope not.
Chaka, is he gonna make it? I'll be baffled again. So I'm
Yeah.
glad. Yeah.
And what I'm going to say too, and Layun recently, I mean, I'm not anti-Layun because I've even praised his run from 2014 to 16. He was one of those guaranteed starters, but didn't he recently say players threw him under the bus, or like the selection threw him under the bus? I mean,
And yeah, that was 4 years ago too. It's like
group. He was part of that group that was getting in a lot of trouble with Chicharito.
Yeah. So it's like that he felt shafted, and then gets the next major call up in 2020 after a major COVID situation. Yeah. I don't know what the long-term thought here is. It's like you got a few really good up-and-comers, and then you just throw in a bunch of players that won't be here in 2 years.
I think bringing guys on like Salcedo is fine. Guys like Salcedo, even Romo, guys like that is fine. But I mean, Layun and Chaka really are the ones that really stand out to me as really negative like players on this team. Like, what are they going to bring to you but a lot of baggage already with them and nothing else? They kind
of had their projection. I mean, you know what I mean? You have to start. And unfortunately, a rival like the U.S., I don't think they're going to keep doing that. I think they're going to start cutting players off. If you're not performing or you're not a big club at 32, they're going to cut you right off. And I hate to praise them, but that's what we've been seeing,
No, the U.S. is gonna if Mexico keeps doing what they're doing, the U.S. is gonna just completely take over. Every time a U.S. player pops up on my timeline that they're going to Europe, that they're going to this, they're all the way doing all this stuff, and it's like, well, how much can a U.S. passport really do for you? Mm-hmm. And at what point does the player's commitment and just the club's willingness to let these players leave come in?
Exactly.
And another question I had was, I'm not mad about it because he's fairly young. Mauro Lainez right here getting the call up. I don't think he's done enough to get a call up, but I'm not mad. I'm not as mad about that than I am about some of these older players. Yeah. It's good to see Santiago Jimenez get the call up. I think he's a great prospect. Giving competition to Martin and JJ. Vega might play down the left or at striker or supporting striker. And then we see Rodriguez from León, a solid center mid. Charlie Cordova, he's more of an attacking minded player, but he can do a good job defensively. Luis Chavez, I haven't seen much of. He plays for Pachuca. But if you're young and you're getting regular minutes, I'm all for you getting the call up. Yeah. Beltran finally getting the call up. I'm glad to see him.
Deserve the recognition for sure. Yeah. I mean, he shows up,
Yeah.
Our guy's coming up.
Our guy, he just needs. There are some things that I wish he would improve, but we could talk about that later. Diva, I am highly critical of him, but ultimately he has been starting all year in a Chivas side that has only conceded 19 goals this calendar year. That's the lowest of any Liga MX team. So he's doing something right. Tata likes the look of him. So I'm pretty happy to see him called up too. It is a surprise though. Yeah,
Tata's praised him before. Yeah, he definitely talked about just his like things that you can't really teach. The guy's physical is just impressive. Look at the guy. He's really big and he's really fast. What else can you look for in a center back, honestly?
Yeah, and it was interesting to see that Mier wasn't called up because he's been in fantastic form, but I'm not against it. Maybe he was just like looking at the center back options that he has, and really, who would you take out at center back to put in Mier? It's like, Mier is over 30 again, so it's like, I'm not too mad about the fact that he wasn't called up, and also, he's less at risk of picking up an injury, so I'm happy on that front. And I asked Brian what he would do given this roster, and I'm going to ask him a little bit about this starting 11, what he would like to see.
Yeah, I mean, if I had to make an 11, I would have to make it as close to my philosophy as possible. And it could be hit or miss. Those, names under the names would be substitutes or possible, changes. I think you'd see Hugo against Costa Rica Jorge Montes Vasquez, who at Pumas, who I guess is, I've seen him play. I know he's played with the youth side a bit, not necessarily the most stellar center back, but at least he's, that's I would say the worst depth for the national team. And then Tiba, but by the way, there's criticisms. One of the things being, I think he waits for a play to develop before then trying to anticipate it. But he's 21. So again, back to my philosophy, you can pinpoint this now. So if you think it's not going to work later, at least you got it out of the way now. Instead of, look at Jonathan Gonzalez. If he was like a year older and you wasted all that time up to the 2018 World Cup, you would never know what the flaws were. And then, but in his case, he only had like 1 month to prove himself, and it was never going to happen. You know what I mean? That's why you got to get these players in now. I got Gallardo. I think he's a start. Beltran, Cordova, Charlie in the midfield. I think that'd be a really fun midfield. Players that can do a lot, versatility, overlap, defend. Up top, I think you got to go strong. Antuna. Yeah, I see Macias and Vega up there, but he might throw something different. He might throw Martin in there, but I think you got to see Piojo and Santi some point in that game. Being so young and being the fact that they both play Cruz Azul, they could link up. And Piojo also is versatile, so he could be throwing that midfield, maybe throwing in his Cordoba spot, or he could be throwing the wing. So that's kind of how I would put that together. Of course, there's other subs that come along, but that kind of fits my philosophy as much as it possibly can.
Yeah, I would be very interested to see a starting 11 in a formation like this, and I don't know what you think about it, Danny, but against Costa Rica, later we have a game against Holland, right? And it'll be some new faces, some European faces, but what I'm going at is that against Holland, you have to kind of respect them a little bit more. So I could see a DM, like a pure DM playing against a team like Holland, but against Costa Rica, you don't have to respect them as much. I mean, you do respect them. I'm not saying they aren't a quality side, but I'm saying if there's a game to field this type of midfield with the three and Cordova free to attack, it's going to be Costa Rica. You know what I mean? Yeah. What do you think, Danny?
Yeah, man, I really like this. I like this for a game against Costa Rica, honestly. A lot of the young players are being given chances. I think that midfield particularly, it's
going to be sexy, dude. Charlie and Beltran. Charlie, what I've said about the difference between Charlie and Beltran, and I don't know if you guys agree, is that Charlie has way better long balls, and he's better at making decisions, attacking decisions. And Beltran kind of controls the tempo of the midfield. He defends very well. His short passing is good. He can get out of sticky situations pretty efficiently.
Yeah. Well, that's a good compliment.
So that's a good combination right there. You know what I mean?
And he never stops moving too, Beltran. I never really see him stop moving. He's kind of, again, he does that anticipation as a midfielder. Charlie too, but I think they'll complement each other, like you guys said, pretty well.
That'll be good. And then I just had this because about that comment that I made about maybe against Holland, you would see that DM right there. What do you think might be a starting 11 against Holland? I know that's far in the future.
Yeah, it'd be hard. It would be hard to say, but because there's going to be players from this roster that are going to be left off.
Yeah.
And there's a team, going to be brought to Holland, which, by the way, one of my criticisms is, and I know he said this is going to be Liga MX only, I need to hear something about Efrain Alvarez.
Yeah.
I need to hear something because the U.S. is going to put a full court press on them. I don't think he would switch, but if you do sit on your hands,
it's unnecessary pressure. It's unnecessary pressure on the player. You shouldn't have to give him that decision to make. You should be pressing for a guy like that. Someone that has that type of talent and just that sort of like those attributes that he has, that vision. It's something that not many players have in Mexico. I can't think of a player that has that type of vision and just his other attributes. You can't think of a player like that.
And he would fit in well. He would fit in well in this call up because if we look at the starting 11 that Brian said, instead of Cordova, maybe Efrain could play, or Vega on the right.
He's done that. He's done an attacking mid. He's done wing.
You could take out Vega and put in Efrain and have him floating a little bit behind the strikers, and then have a DM, something like that. So yeah, Efrain would fit in. We've been seeing him, Brian, and I know you've even posted some videos of some of his passing. It's elite. It's crazy.
It's up there, man. It's really up there.
So, yeah.
But in terms of that, go ahead.
Oh, how many of these guys on the call-up are really going to go to something of a youth level? Like, let's say the Olympics. How many of these guys are really going to go to the Olympics? I can only think of like maybe 4 or 5. So
and they would have to.
I'm thinking that a lot of these players are going to maybe go to some of these players are going to go to that, but a lot of them aren't. So I'm thinking that he's most likely going to go to those call-ups. A lot of Jaime Lozano's call-ups.
I hope so, man, because if you look at the squad, a lot of these players wouldn't even make the age. Like Ivan Rodriguez, I'm pretty sure he's older than 24. I don't know. Yeah, so, and COVID kind of messed me up, so I'm kind of confused in terms of what's going to happen.
So whoever qualified, who would have qualified for now, they're bumping 1 year, so Cordoba would be available. I believe so.
And Charlie and Beltran and Luis Chavez, I forget how old he is. I think he might be.
I think guys like Angulo were also on the cusp of not making age. Yeah.
But Angulo, okay, so then if that cancels it out, then Angulo could still make it, I think. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's what we think about El Tri, and we want to kind of switch focus onto the upcoming Clásico really quick. These are right here we see on the screen probable starting 11s. And given what Chivas, I'm going to say the Chivas one real quick, and then I'll ask Brian about America. But given what Chivas has presented in the past few weeks with Vucetich, this is probably going to be the starting 11. The only question marks I have are, will he keep Chicote in the starting lineup? And will he keep Dieter in the starting lineup? I don't know if Vuce liked what he saw. I liked what I saw from each of them. And I think he really liked what he saw from Antuna. So I think Antuna earned himself the starting spot. What do you think, Danny, about this starting 11? Do you see it differently?
I think that's spot on, man, honestly. Preferably, I'd like to see a 3-man midfield. But, I mean, under Vucetich, we're not going to see it. I don't think that we're going to see it anytime soon. But I agree. The only spots that are really in question right now that I've heard are goalkeeper. But I think Gudiño, a lot of reporters are saying that Gudiño is pretty much locking down the spot for the Clásico. And Chicote, hopefully he plays. If Ponce plays again, I'm going to lose my mind. There's no reason that guy should be playing.
I will be very devastated.
Yeah, Chicote's done his work defensively. He did his work in the attack when he could. So, I mean, he's met everything. Yeah. There's no reason he shouldn't start.
No reason.
Dieter should, I mean, Beltran should be starting, but I mean, the thing that he lacks is the ability to hit players in stride when throwing long passes. But I mean, does it make up for the defensive part? I don't know if Dieter really has the ability to come back and help out a guy like Molina, especially with a midfield with Richard, Cordova, guys like that.
Yeah. The main problem I see is that we absolutely have to start Molina for some reason, even though he loses balls all the time and he's caught off of position, very frequently. But I think that he will start Beltran. And I think that'll be a mistake because the way that the game's going to be played, that I envision it being played, is we're going to have to look out at the counter. Like that's when we are going to be able to cause damage with Antuna and Chicote making runs. And I feel like Dieter can give a better, longer pass than Beltran.
He could, but the problem is that they're not going to play a 3. He would start definitely if they played a 3. Take out a guy like Brizuela, put Vega on the left and Antuna on the right. That would be absolutely perfect. It'd be amazing to see that. You'd have Dieter absolutely tearing it up in the final third because he has the ability to do that. And Beltran is an 8, box to box. And I mean, no, not Beltran. Beltran is a CDM. And then you have a guy like Dieter able to float around the midfield.
Yeah, and then the big question mark for me is also, will we see Chofis? I don't know. I don't know when's the next time we'll see Chofis. But anyway, I want to ask Brian about his prediction for what the starting 11 will be, and then his prediction for the game.
Okay, so this is pretty much what I kind of threw together, kind of going off of what I saw last week. As you can see here, only difference is I think Cordova's going to come back. I know he tried out Benedetti, but I think he would like Benedetti as a come off the bench type of guy.
Mhm.
Either way, you can't really go wrong with it. I just prefer Cordova. Maybe it's bias. I think Suarez keeps a spot. But then what I've seen, I see Martin dropping quite a bit to help out. So that's kind of why it's like a 4-4-1-1. But probably traditionally lines up as a 4-4-2. With the game, in a couple of these previews, I kind of, the main hits, Chivas at the goalkeeper situation. That's their dicey part. With America, there really is a disconnect with the defense in the midfield. When to pressure, when to press. But on the flip side, when they do get the ball, they do get possession. They do try to link up, and they do fairly well. And then another really big weak spot, for whatever reason, it seems like whatever team I cheer for, this is the weak spot, set pieces. And I know we've talked, and you're like, that's not really how you see Chivas succeeding, but I could see them getting on the board that way.
Interesting.
Mismark or the ball, squeaks by somebody. It just feels like that happens almost every game. I mean, if you can look back, it's happened quite a bit. And overall, I think we're going to see a fun game because there's major strengths, major weaknesses. Yeah. I see Aguilera either big or he's going to get caught out. He's going to get burnt. Yeah. It's one of those question marks, but I see it going back and forth. And if Cordova gets the rhythm, I think he can link up with these guys pretty well. And Suarez also on the left. I see a 2-2. I think they're going to split the points. On America's side, that's not going to hurt too bad. I mean, you want to get a win. I know the Copa that they did was a friendly, but you want to get the win. I mean, it's a rival. You want to get the win no matter what. But I think it's going to split. I know on your side, which I'm going to turn over to you now. That's not what your desired end result is. But that's kind of how I see the game being. I think it's going to be back and forth.
Well, my desire is a Chivas win, and the only way we can do that is if we play the counter, like I said, and expose that back line. Fuentes is not the strongest. Aguilera is not the strongest. But we will lose a lot of balls in the midfield through Molina, and then I could see relentless pressure from America, Viñas, bullying Godinho and getting him to make a mistake. I could see that happening. So my prediction is a 2-1 America win. I will be devastated, but I really need to see something different from Vuse. Danny, and I don't know what you think, but I really need to see something completely different from what we've seen these past couple of games before I'm convinced that we have a chance to win.
Yeah, had we seen something different against Necaxa and before then against Querétaro, I would be saying we have a chance. But honestly, from what I've seen against a team like America, who could play absolutely terrible and still get the win. Who knows how they do it? I wish we knew how to do it more often than just Necaxa. But, I mean, it's just their way of doing things. They play terrible and they still will win. I am predicting that they will still win. Honestly, it's either that or, I mean, I don't want to say that America probably will win off a mistake because just as likely Chivas can win off a mistake. I'm actually predicting a 2-1 to either side. I can't decide which one will make more of a terrible mistake to the point that it costs them a goal, because a guy like Viñas, you can't let him go. You cannot let him go for even a single second. Diva could let him go. You never know.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, and another thing too for America, they need to keep it. They're weak. They're so weak if they go man down. That attack will rip them apart. It would be pretty ugly if also or Richard or somebody goes out. So they need to try to keep it as clean as possible. So I mean that's a big factor too.
A big factor for me is that Piojo has a lot more experience with his squad than Vuse does with this squad. Sure. And I think that Piojo has studied us, and he has seen that even when we are up by a man, like our opposition gets a red card, when our opposition sets up that low block, we can't figure out how to break them down. And so if America nicks a goal early through Viñas or Martin or whoever, I can see, even though I don't know if Piojo has practiced this with his men, I could see him try to do a low block and shut Chivas down. So that's really
possible. It's possible, but keep in mind, in those games that they do get red cards that I've seen even earlier in 2020, they still really do try to attack quite a bit. I mean, you just have to balance it with the opponent, but I don't think If it's deadlocked, I think they're still going to go for it. But if they are up, then yeah, you are correct. They will probably try to salvage whatever they can out of that, because it gets weak fast.
Well, the problem is that every coach that we've had since early 2020 has been so incapable of putting up a lineup that will benefit us. The players that we have out there should have a 10 that's able to get balls to them. We don't have players out there. Molina and Beltran can only do so much. Molina can't do anything at that.
Yeah.
Beltran can only do so much. So, I mean, you really need to get players into that midfield that will help your forwards do the best they can. So, I mean, Bucetich and Tena were incapable of doing that. The only reason we won 4-2 in the Copa por Mexico. Yeah, 4-3 for the Copa por Mexico, was because we were hitting that day, but sometimes we're just not hitting.
Yeah.
And especially when, like Rigo says, the low blocks, we can't break them down. A guy like Dieter sometimes can break them down for you. He could help you at least do something. A guy like Trophies, but they're not playing. They're not being given minutes. So what can we do if the right players aren't out there,
Exactly. So I see this game being very difficult for Chivas, and let's say we draw, Chivas has 16 points, America ends up with 21 points, still in the top 4. I think they'll be fine for their goal of ending up in the top 4. But Chivas' goal of landing in the top 4 will be completely dead if we get anything other than a win. So that's pretty much our breakdown for this Clásico and the El Tri call-up. Thank you guys for watching. Make sure to follow Brian and Danny in their Twitter handles. I will leave them in the description below. Follow Chivas Status, subscribe, like, and we'll see you later.